So you know we spend most of our time fighting against the government, struggling to get them to put back benefits and stop killing our people. And so we thought you'd like to know that the city of Los Angeles is honoring us today. And so this is a city council resolution. It's signed by council members LaBonge and Wesson. Go figure. And I just want to read the end. It's quite amazing. You might want to take a look at it later. It's quite amazing that the city council's put this in here, but it says at the end, be it resolved that to honor, recognize, and support all that women contribute to society, the city of Los Angeles salutes all women's work for the survival of our families and communities, without which the economy and life of the city would not flourish. And that the city of Los Angeles is pleased to recognize women surviving globally, surviving in Southern California, an event in commemoration of International Women's Day.
And there it is, beautiful. We're going to have to frame that one. And that's Nancy Berlin with Alexandria House. Nancy was going to say.
I want to tell you that Occupy Fights Foreclosures is doing a lot to help people stay in their homes and fight the banks and other financial institutions. We're also trying to change the laws that we go by here in the state and in the country, so some of our attention goes to that. When someone is foreclosed on from their home, it's not just painful for that family, it's part of a pain that ripples through whole communities, and all communities are not equal. Communities of color, some of the poorest communities, have been the hardest hit with the evictions and foreclosures here in Southern California and around the state. So we feel like it's affecting everything. About 8 million students or children around the country have been displaced, lost their homes. All these kids lose their playmates, their mothers lose their role in the community and in the education of the community. It has that ripple effect. We spend all this money for a war, and we have all this fraud. And it is acknowledged now quite often in the press, the level of fraud of banks and financial institutions. It's also spreading and affecting everyone because it's pushing the rental market up and causing lots more people to be unable to afford their rent. And a lot of people have been forced into homelessness. It's one struggle, and it's Wall Street has ruined out cities and counties and state governments all over America. It's time it stops, and I need to stop because there's lots of other people here.
President Lankford could not be here. I was asked to read the following on behalf of himself and the Executive Board, the National Executive Board. To the global women's strike, and every mother is working. I'm sorry, let me start over. To the Global Women's Strike and the Every Mother is a Working Mother Coalition on the occasion of the International Women's Day of 2013. Greetings from the 50,000 women and men of the Utility Workers Union of America. We send special greetings to our sister Margaret Prescott, who has spoken on several occasions on UWA platforms and has been a longtime supporter of the struggles of working families, including on her radio show, Sojourner Truth, where she has lived up to her show's name. It is not often remembered that the International Women's Day was originally called International Working Women's Day, and the first call for this international recognition of women working was made here in the United States. As president of the Utility Workers Union of America, which has a long, proud history of fighting for and winning rights for women workers and their families, including pay equity, maternity leave, more flexible schedules, and subsidized child care. I am particularly pleased with your theme this year of supporting the Work and Rise Act, which recognizes the work of women in the home raising children. Our members, who are mothers, who told us loud and clear that when they leave the workplace, they still have a lot of work to do at home. Got that right. It is a disgrace that the United States, the richest nation on earth, is the only industrialized nation not to recognize the work of mothering, beginning with some kind of payment from the state. All right. And you have rightly identified the destruction of welfare as we know it as one of the key attacks on all workers who get wages. It has undermined the minimum wage, so hated by the 1%, corporate America, and their legislative mouthpieces. Here in Michigan, we have particularly felt their anger as they have carved out another right to work for less state, resulting in increased poverty and more desperation, particularly for women and children dependent on them. That desperation is made worse by huge utility bills feeding outrageous profit margins at major utilities across the country. We, in the utility workers, have called for the recognition of gas, water, and electricity as human rights. Never to be cut off and disconnected during cold winters in pursuit of higher profit margins. We know that it's often single mothers with children who can't afford the bills who are being disconnected. That's right. If the corporations that run the utility industry in this country can live with the creation of a more humane industry, then we will have to take them and put them in the public domain. Again, we stand with you against poverty on International Working Women's Day. In 1906, Samuel Gompers, the president of the American Federation of Labor at the time, wrote, "What does labor want? We want more schoolhouses and less jails, more books and less arsenals, more learning and less vice, more leisure and less greed, more justice and less revenge. In fact, more of the opportunities to cultivate our better natures. The Wall Street 1% are determined to have the reverse. We, like you, are determined that they shall not pass." President Michael Lankford, thank you.
I think what's most important for me today is the people inside these jails. We're across the street from human cages, and people who are constantly abused and battered by sheriff deputies, people that are neglected. Los Angeles is the largest mental health provider, and these jails house the largest mental health population in the country. That is disturbing and disgusting to me. The people who bear the brunt of that are the women, the sisters, the siblings, the wives, the mothers. 13 years ago, my brother was incarcerated inside these jails. He was beaten terribly by sheriff deputies. And at the end of the day, my mother and I had to clean up their mess. So much of women's lives is about cleaning the mess up of the system. We need to figure out, how are we going to actually stop the system? How are we going to demand the system changes its ways towards our people, specifically inside these jails? I want to give a shout out to everyone inside Twin Towers. Some of us can see, if you can see us, we're here with you. To the men in Men's Central Jail, to the women in Linwood, to the men in Wayside Pitches Detention Center. We fight every single day to see your freedom. Ashe.